hello everyone, it's Andy from Petrolhead. And when I was not really into electric cars, so going back a few years, I heard about something called one pedal driving, and I think it was Nissan who came out with this mode, and I thought they were absolutely bonkers. I was like, this is going to cause so many accidents, because I thought, how can they control a car with just one pedal? I was like, I remember driving a tractor lawnmower, like I sit on lawnmowers when I was a kid, that had one pedal, and you basically, if you put your foot on the pedal, it was the brake, and as you let off, you would go forward. But this is a lawnmower, it's not a, you know, a car surrounded by other road users. So I thought, this sound must be absolutely bonkers. But I wasn't really into electric cars, so I didn't pay any more attention. Now I know what it means. So this is what it means. So you're driving around normally and you use the throttle. I'm going to call it a throttle because I'm still a petrol head. Anyway, so you use the throttle, and then when you're coming up to a roundabout like I am now, then you let off the throttle and something called regen happens. Now, you cannot create energy. All you can do is transform energy from one form to another. So what happens in a petrol or diesel car is you use the engine to propel you down the road, and then when you want to brake, you use the brake pedal and the brake pads push together on the brake disc and creates friction, and that slows you down, and then that energy is then turned into heat and noise. In an electric car, you've got the benefit of having the motors, and motors are quite clever because not only can they push you one way when you want them to, but you can also use them to turn the other way and create a bit of regen. Now, this is quite clever because the regen actually takes that energy and puts it back into your battery. Now, only people driving down, mountains are going to have a situation where the car charges more than physically moving the car through the distance you've driven. You then get some muppets like Toyota and Lexus who talk about self-charging hybrids. All they're doing is using petrol to push you forward, and then every now and again you get a tiny weeny bit of regen, and they put that into a battery and claim that's self-charging. No, it's just using petrol 90% of the time, and then if you're very lucky in certain circumstances you get a little bit of energy back. But anyway, enough of that. Plenty of people ranting about them. So in something like a Tesla or the i3, which I'll jump into in a second, you come up to, again, roundabout and Milton Keynes, so there's lots of them around, and I'm actually having to brake a bit now with the middle pedal, because in the Tesla the regen is very good, but it won't bring you to a stop, and there's a learner driver just going around the roundabout, so didn't want to crash into him. Doesn't really give them much confidence, does it? So as you're approaching the roundabout, you let off the accelerator pedal, regen kicks in, the little bar goes down to green, which says it's giving a little bit of charge into your battery, and that slows you down. And in most journeys you don't touch the brake pedal very much, especially on motorways. If you're clever and not driving right up behind someone 6 inches from their bumper, you can kind of modulate the distance between you and the car in front just with a little bit of control on the accelerator pedal. This actually brings into people like me who love driving. There's a skill involved there, and it's a little bit like, well, it's a bit more basic than heel and toeing in a petrol car, but you can get a similar satisfaction. And looking at the road ahead and reading the road and working out what's coming up ahead, you can then take your foot off the accelerator at the right point and use that regen and not even have to touch the brakes. So a lot of people in the Tesla world that I'm aware of get 60, 80, 100,000 miles out of brake pads for this reason. They just don't use the physical brakes, except for the last, you know, 5 miles an hour as you're coming to a dead stop. It actually can have negative problems because the brake discs and the brake pads end up just rusting up because they just don't get used. So what you then need to do is every now and again you turn off regen, which on a Tesla you can easily do in the menu, and then you basically just use the brakes as normal. The other thing to consider in a Tesla especially is when you're at 100% battery, which you shouldn't really charge very often. I only do it if I'm doing a road trip. The 100% battery means there's nowhere for the energy to go. So in that scenario, you don't get any regen. It kicks in at about 95, 96%. So that can be quite funny if you've got like speed bumps in your neighborhood and you're coming down the road at 100% battery, starting a road trip, going off on holiday or something, and you come towards a speed bump, you let your foot off the accelerator, and you just keep going. So you launch over the speed bumps, which isn't particularly clever. So when I first jumped into the Tesla on a test drive and I was using regen, my initial thought was, this is horrible. This is, I just feel out of control, and I did not enjoy it at all. The salesman said, look, you know, it takes a day or so to get used to it, and your muscle memory just kicks in and you start to realize how much you need to take your foot off the accelerator to get a decent brake. And he's right. I got to use it more, and now I wouldn't be without it. I think it's such a useful feature. So I think what would be a good thing now is to jump over into the BMW and see how that compares. So now in the i3, and this has regen as well. It's just a little bit different from the Tesla. So the thing to do is to just learn the sort of various parts of, you know, the car you own, because they're both good, but they're different. So the thing is, the i3 is more of a town and city car. So it's a bit better under 10 miles an hour with regen. You can get to pretty much a stop, but you can. The last few miles an hour, it's quite a slow degradation of speed, but in the Tesla you don't really get down to zero that easily. So for going around town, the i3 is a more useful regen system. Where it's not so good is if you on a dual carriageway. Just joining one so I can demonstrate this. Good old roundabouts. Alright, so on a dual carriageway, and you know, when you're coming up to roundabouts at sort of 65, 70 miles an hour, then you do need your brake a bit more. In the Tesla you can probably get away with it and regen most of the way, check the roundabouts clear, and then pull straight off again. Anyway, so yeah, coming up at sort of 50 miles an hour to around about 46, 40. Okay, I'm gonna have to brake now. So you do end up using the physical brake a lot more in the i3 at sort of A road and sort of motorway faster speeds, but it's better around town. So considering what the two cars are designed for, I think that's a really good compromise there. I don't know the tech behind why one's different to the other. I don't, if I'm honest, don't really care. It's the thing is, you just got to drive cars. You know, if you haven't driven an electric car, you need to drive one. You know, they're just so much better than petrol and diesel cars in so many ways. The case uses of a diesel or petrol car being better are very quickly evaporating. So, you know, regen is just one of these other things. So whether it's called one pedal driving or using regen, you know, it's just another reason to go with a you know, an electric car. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you've liked it, then obviously like, subscribe, blah blah blah.